Hola a todos, mi nombre es Hawani. First of all, why will this video help you if you're learning Spanish? Well, the first reason why is because we're going to be going through the verb haber and using it as an auxiliary. The second reason why is because we're going to be going through the verb estar and conjugating it in its participio form. And then the third reason why is because we're going to be going through gerunds, or in short, adding the ing onto the end of Spanish verbs in combination with the verb haber and estar. Now, moving forward, the reason why I thought this video would be a great one to bring up this particular topic is because for most of us don't have the luxury of actually living in a Spanish-speaking country. So when most of us are presented with the opportunity to actually practice Spanish in a conversation, what's the first question that we typically get? Yep, you guessed it. ¿Cómo estás? ¿Qué tal? ¿Qué has hecho últimamente? So how are you, or what have you been doing lately? Typically, this is the type of question that you're normally going to get first up. Now, this particular construction for me personally really helps me to get the conversation flowing. For example, yesterday in my Spanish class with my teacher asked me first up, ¿Cómo ha ido tu semana? So how has your week gone? And I replied, para ser sincero, no he estado estudiando mucho. So, para ser sincero, no he estado estudiando mucho. So, to be honest, I haven't been studying a lot. So, before we break it down grammatically, let's first take a look at these two statements and see if you can notice the subtle difference between the two of them. So what's the difference if I say he estudiado or he estado estudiando? So I have studied or I have been studying. So what's the difference between the two statements? Yeah, so if I say I have been studying, I'm basically saying that first of all, this has been a recurring action in the past. But the second thing is this recurring action has a relationship or a correspondence with the present moment. So that's basically the difference between the two. Now, can you see why this particular construction can really help elevate your Spanish conversation? Because if you're practicing online with your Spanish teacher, or if you're practicing with friends, or if you meet a stranger, when they ask you, ¿Cómo estás? Like, how are you, as an example, you can really go into a lot more detail with what you've been doing recently. For example, in English, you could just say, I have been learning, or I have been studying, or I have been working, or I have been cooking, I have been eating. There's a lot of different paths you can go down with this construction. Cool, so now the question is, how do we break this down and how do we form this grammatically? Let's get into it. So first of all, we have to conjugate the verb haber as an auxiliary. So I'm just going to go through the yo and the do form in this particular example because these will be the most useful for you to start with in a conversation. So if we bring it up, we've got the yo form, which is yo, So yo, So remember, we don't pronounce the H in Spanish. The do form is as. So tú, has. So I have or you have. Now we look at the verb estar and conjugate it in its participio form. So we're saying I have been. So we use the verb estar. So in this particular construction, we take the AR off the verb estar. And then we put the ending in, which in the participio form is ado. So ado. So estar becomes estado. Estado. So I have been, he estado. Now moving forward onto the third thing, now we have to add the ing onto the next verb that we want to use. So let's use the verb I used before, estudiar, to study. So what we do in this particular sense is we first of all, we take the AR, the ending, off the end of the verb. Let's use the verb estudiar. Now for AR verbs, we put the ending in, or the ing, so the verb estudiar becomes estudiando. Estudiando, studying. It is a little bit different, however, if we want to look at IR and ER verbs. If we want to add the ing onto the end of those, the ending is IENDO. IENDO. So let's use the verb aprender to start with, the verb to learn. So what we do first, we take the ER off the end of the verb, and then we put that ending in, or the ing, which becomes IENDO. IENDO. So aprender becomes aprendiendo. Aprendiendo. Great, so let's break it down. So first of all, we conjugate the verb haber in the yo form, since I'm talking about myself. So yo, We then conjugate the verb estar in its participio form, which is estado, estado. We then add the ing onto the verb estudiar, which becomes estudiando, estudiando. So when we put it all together, he estado estudiando mucho. I have been studying a lot. Let's bring up an IR or ER verb this time, though, to mix it up. This time I want to say, I have been learning a lot. So how would you say that? Yeah, nice and simple. He estado aprendiendo mucho. He estado aprendiendo mucho. Awesome work, everyone. So let's go for a couple more examples just to help it sink in a little bit more. Let's use the verb practicar this time. So let's say you're having a conversation with someone in Spanish and you just want to say, I have been practicing with my friends. So I have been practicing with my friends. How would you say that? Cool. So you'd say, he estado practicando con mis amigos. He estado practicando con mis amigos. I have been practicing with my friends. Good job. Let me throw one more at you. I have been working too much. So I have been working too much. So you're having a conversation in Spanish, the person asks you how you're doing, and you just want to say, I've been working too much. Cool. This time you'd say, he estado trabajando demasiado. So, he estado trabajando demasiado. So I have been studying, or I've been working, too much. Great job, everyone. So if it helps, in the description box for you below, I will leave the formula as well as the conjugations for you, so you can have a little bit of a practice there. Practice writing out some examples as well, if that helps. Also, if you are getting any value from these videos, please consider liking the video and subscribing if you haven't already. And apart from that one, I will see you in the next one. Hasta pronto.